Hi everybody, and welcome back to Hex Token channel. Hope you guys are having a great day as usual. And let's get straight into it. This is the Hex weekly price prediction update, and of course missed last week, so this is 2 weeks, but it is a weekly one. So let's get straight into it. Hex.com, let's go. And of course, here we are on the. We're going to first do the price update and a price review, and then the price prediction part. So here we are on the weekly chart for Hex price on Index Tools, USDC pair, and you can see that obviously the price is still in the downtrend, and so we've had our bearish scenario continue to play out on the retrace. So obviously this is about where we're at the moment, and we can see that the average there on the 9 AMA is 16 cents, and we're currently down at 13.5 in the current week. These are weekly candles, and this current week is the low is 12.23 cents, which we got today. Of course, you can see the volumes have been tapering down as well. And let's have a quick look at some of the indicators. So we've got the CCI, that's the commodity index, and that is just about reached negative 100. So it can go below that, but that's pretty low. And of course, we could see it bounce off that. So we're watching that pretty closely. The date is the 8th of December at the moment, so we've still got a bit of room to move ahead. We've still got two large candles coming out as well in our maturing stakes, as we say, the 17th and the 1st of January ahead of us. So it'll be interesting to watch that. Now we've got our MACD. Moving average is below the signal line, the yellow one there, and the volumes down here as well. So that's still well negative, and so that's where we are, still in a bearish downtrend on the weekly. So we've had 4 red candles, volume candles in there as well. You can see there. We've got the RSI, obviously, is around 42. So still below 50, and so we really want that to move over 50 to get some positive momentum. We've got our EFI and the volume oscillator, both volume metrics, and they are both looking negative too, especially the volume oscillator. And then finally our DMI down the bottom with the blue line there. So buyers being beaten out so far, which we can see in the chart. So all pretty self-explanatory. Let's jump over to the the daily one, and we'll just update that, and we'll go full screen. Let's pull that up here, and maybe move that across a little bit. Make sure I get that right. We've got the only one we've got showing at the moment is the 200 moving average. So it's not an exponential moving average. Exponential just means that it's weights the time, more of them the contemporary time periods to the current period, which can sometimes be a better average. So this is a moving average, and it's currently sitting at 20.8 cents. And of course, here we are at 13.5 cents. So got a little wee way to get back up to that. And of course we were well above it before, so pretty cool. And obviously our volumes have been a bit all over the place. We have had a rise in volumes, but of course with the sell down at the moment, so the bears are still in control of this one. Let's pull up let's scroll this up again, and let's pull up our lines, and we're going to get into this. Let's get into whereabouts about there. So we're going to look at some of the price prediction, and now obviously we've got our long-term linear support. Okay, so it's not a log support is sorry, the log view is better for long term. We're looking at the linear chart at the moment, and of course we kept on having a nice move up on the linear chart. I won't go too much through this, but we had our support line, which was our short-term battle line. So we ended up, let me just scroll this up a bit here. So we ended up obviously zigzagging down through here, and some OGs selling down as well. So that's just the way it was. People with stakes coming out, selling down, and they've made big US dollar gains. So it's better to lose them at this price range rather than in the dollars, right? So that's not too bad in the long scheme of things. That's pretty much the way it is. So we had these down arrows, and of course they have actually been completely breached, and we breached all our targets. Even our 14.4 support was also breached. So all those bearish scenarios played out. This is the only one that played, the screen one is the only one that played out, and that was short-lived. So that was at 16.5 cents. So that was also killed off, which means that the bearish scenario won and the bullish one lost out. So all the bullish lines going up there have gone, which were in orange. They've all disappeared. So those are the ones heading up towards the $1.80 mark that we had. So the bears keep winning out, and so that we've got a full bear move down now, and so now we're breaking down through support. So we broke the long-term linear support as well. So where does that leave us? That leaves us here down at the defend line, the resistant line, even one might argue the log minimum on the log chart, and of course that's 10 cents. And this looks like the defend line. A lot of people are talking about buying at 10 cents, especially a lot of big OGs talking about buying at 10 cents. So this is to be seen, of course. People have to act on what they say. So we're going to see whether they do that. But this defend line is 10 cents. Now we may not even get there, but we may get there. So that is kind of the bearish scenario, is the 10-cent mark. And of course, capitulation resistance line is our previous resistance. So we had previous resistance here when we were up at 6.5 cents. Remember, we were up, bam, down, bam. We had a higher lows, and then we broke through that, and then bang, bang, and we were off the roses, down, 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 down. We broke the 18.5 cents and off. We were off to all-time highs up to the 50-cent mark with spikes up at 56 cents. So pretty cool. So this is our resistance, capitulation resistance. We really ideally don't want to get down here, because once you're down there, of course, you can go lower. So that's pretty cool. So let's not cool. That's not cool. So let's take the ruler out and see where that would take us to. So 10 cents would be 82.5% retrace. And of course, down to 6.5 cents would be 88%. So that would be a big retrace. Probably make it the number 2 biggest retrace. I think the biggest one is 93% of something like that. So we do have the chart, so we can go check that. So this is where we're at. So I think that the 10 cents myself is the one. I don't think we're going to hit the capitulation line. Not a great place to be either way. But with that said, we have a wall coming up, and I think this is probably the interesting stuff. So we're going to move into the price prediction here. But before we do that, we're just going to jump over to hex graphs and look at this particular slide, which is pretty cool. In the beginning, few people accumulated a lot of hex, which they then distribute to a lot of people who have little or no hex. Like roots branching out from a growing tree, distribution is important for future growth. And so that's why you see these parabolics as well. You see people that are selling them down, they go down to typically into more hands as time goes on. So we're seeing a bit of that now too, especially when we hit that 50-cent mark. That was pretty huge returns for a lot of OGs. So and some of them had paper hands decide to sell. Many obviously OGs have diamond hands are well staked, but that's all you need, and you need so many of them to do that. So there we are. All right, so that's pretty much that. So let's get into the price prediction. So we've got this. The first date here is potentially the date for the. Let me just jump over to this one here. Actually, let's jump over to our PulseChain timeline, and we'll quickly check. This here is our pulse swap range at the moment. So we've got somewhere between the 23rd and of course the 6th of January, and most likely somewhere around about the 27th is where I have it. 27th for the PulseChain pulse swap sacrifice launch. Now this is huge. So what this means is that potentially we'll get a repeat of what we saw back at PulseChain, where we get a lot of hex sacrificed, and that takes more of the circulating supply hex. Now we've been talking about in the daily vids how circulating supply has been going up, obviously with all the stakes coming out in November, particularly in December. Obviously there's quite a bit of OA stuff in there too, but nevertheless a lot of independent investor stakes coming out in November and December. So that's come out, and even in the months prior there was always $500,000 or so, $500 million I should say, coming out. So quite a bit of stuff. So that's accumulated, and of course this gives us the opportunity to, just like we did back at PulseChain, we absorbed a lot of that hex and sacrifice. Now obviously the price rallied up and people sacrificed, particularly probably large holders, and then we saw the price get sold down. There were a lot of whales selling this down, is probably what was happening too, because that forces everyone else to have less in the sacrifice, and so that gives more whale dominance as well. So are we going to see something like that here? I'm just not actually sure we have the same time frame. to do that, because obviously if PulseChain does launch on the around about the 6th of January, which is what I've currently got in the window at the moment, based on what Richard said in his last videos, then if it is on time, obviously it can always still be delayed, but if it is on time in here, and that all depends on PulseChain testnet 2 coming out too this week, which looks pretty likely. So we'll see. And here we are on the testnet. So we have a little window here. We only have a little window. And then, of course, we don't have much time. Here's a big wall here. PulseChain launches with PulseSwap, because it's so big FOMO. There's so many fundamentals in here. It's insane. You've got your big pools, you've got your Uniswap, you've got your sucking out, drawing out, I should say, a lot of economic energy out of the ETH chain into all the pairs that get over here, and of course super fast, super cheap. You can see it's going to be really as a big game changer. Got a lot of people lining up. They want to get Pulse. They want to get into this action. Biggest yield farming in history, biggest airdrop as well. You can see it's pretty much hitting. This is a one-off event at this stage, so it looks pretty huge. So taking all into account, I don't think we're in quite the same situation we are here with the time frame. So let's go back to our prediction, and of course that would mean that we might hit the bottom here somewhere pretty soon. And of course, we could have hit down to 10 cents and back up. So that's entirely possible. We've still got a bit of time to do that, because we're currently on the 8th of December here. So we've still got time to do that. Or we're going to see the bottom out playing out about now and start rising up here. And then by the time we get to, the 27th of December here, I don't know why the time frame's not showing up on my scale here. Let me just scroll that along a bit. No, it's coming on a little bit there. So let's take the 6th though. I'm not sure what it's not showing up at all, so that's not our fault, but you get the idea. Is that by the time we get up to the 27th of December here, then we've got a bit of a ramp up, right? Because people are going to sacrifice, so we're going to get the similar thing that we saw here, where we got a big rise up a couple of days before the sacrifice. So this is the logic. And so we'll start get a rise up here. People will realize actually time's running out here, and there's actually not there's not a lot happening, a lot of supply relatively speaking, about 160 million hex or so. And then of course we have HexScale going to be launching any day, maybe even within the next week. So that's a huge private demand, probably likely to pump millions of dollars in as well. We just don't know what their private target is. Is it 10 million? Is it 5 million? Is it 20 million? How big is that? Because that will really start sucking, drawing, I should say, the hex out of the liquidity pools. So that's a huge pump mental we didn't have back here. We had a lot of big investors come in here for the sacrifice, obviously, but this HexScale is another one. Plus, obviously, we have all the other whales that's thing around, like Overwatch, the Hex God Whale, and etc. All those sort of people. So let's get back to our prediction. So a good idea is that we'll probably get this sun rise up to our sacrifice wall. We'll actually sacrifice a lot of hex. So sacrificing a lot of hex means gets it off the market that would be sold. It's not going to be sold. So we get a second whammy of hex being taken off the market, and making it even more scarce even for people like HexScale coming in, who are going to stake it 15 years and then issue shares in a public trust. And once it happens, and something like the NASDAQ or something, that people and IRAs and all sorts of people can invest in it. So it just expands itself with bigger financial targets. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So that's that. And then of course we don't have much time between the 27th and our estimated PulseChain timeline here. So so that means that around about the 6th or 7th here of January. So that means that we probably could possibly have a little dip during the sacrifice phase, after the whales get in, and then it sort of goes down a bit. It's not going to be the same scale as PulseChain, obviously, but there will be a significant sacrifice for it. And then we could see a little dip, and then suddenly start rising up pretty quickly by 6th, 7th, 8th sort of PulseChain when it launches. Obviously, if its launch is delayed, then we could have a big lull period, and the price could actually fall off quite a bit before, and then we'll have to wait for the rise. But if that is close if it is on time, then we could see this big rise up here, maybe back up to our 50 cents, 46 cents, something like that. And there we are. And then after PulseChain, of course, we have a big rally on the day. It could spike up really high, and then it could start pulling back down, and then coming, start rising up after that, and then heading up towards, our dollar mark and so forth, and onwards and upwards to, have a bit of pullback when it gets to dollar, pulls back a bit, and then it goes up to like $1.80, which is kind of the previous target they had, because I think that's a fairly reasonable price target there as well. So and that's by the Feb, through to that period. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out. That's kind of the bullish mark there. Obviously, I think that this wall here with the PulseChain and the sacrifice is just going to cause a lot, basically like water running up to the wall, and so the price is just going to smash up against it, and people are going to be clamoring for the hex for that reason. And then, of course, in the sacrifice, a lot of hex that could be sold is going to be sacrificed as well, and so it's going to be pretty interesting to see that play out. So that there is pretty much the price prediction. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Once again, this is for infotainment purposes, not investment advice. But leave your comments in the chat there. I'd really love to hear your thoughts about that. But definitely the bullish scenario from 2 weeks ago, definitely off the table since with the downtrend, and so now we're looking at smashing up against these walls as long as they're on time. Obviously, everything moves to the right if everything is delayed. That's probably all I would say about that. All right, let me know your comments in the comment section. Otherwise, subscribe, like, and share. Hit the bell, of course, and I will look forward to catching you next time. All right, enjoy yourself, and man, good price to get some hex at the moment, 13 cents, and of course, T-shares are super cheap, so good times. All right, let's watch how the market goes over the next week. Bye.